So now we've got Ian from Diadem joining us for a T.E.A Talk. Ian, you well?
Very well, thank you.
Good stuff. Thank you so much for jumping on. So just give us a quick run through. So what is Diadem? Oh, go on.
Okay, so Diadem is a green roof manufacturer and producer.
Yep.
So what does that mean? We help create living roofs all across Europe, even in North America.
Okay.
So we provide all the materials needed to create a green roof or a living roof on top of typically commercial buildings.
Right, okay. So with these T.E.A Talks, we're getting straight into the marketing challenges. So that's your sector. What do you think is the biggest marketing challenge that you've got in the sector right now?
Widespread adoption.
Okay.
It's a very niche or niche industry when it's really not.
Okay.
It shouldn't be, because it's actually there's a lot of environmental challenges coming our way, and some of the solutions that green roofs provide is this, but most people are not even aware of it.
Okay.
Unless you're in the industry.
So how are people? So are you doing any paid media? What sort of marketing are you doing right now?
So we're doing paid traffic like Google, Meta.
Okay.
We're doing a lot of organic as well.
Okay.
We've got paid like the online media, and we've also got offline as well.
Okay.
And some of it is working, some of it's functioning.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily turn into money in the bank.
Well, because that for me that's why I was curious to know what paid media does. So you said you're doing Google. What type of ads are you running on Google?
We're doing paid search.
So how does that tie into then the challenge around people, their perception, and how are people searching? Because that's an interesting one. Because if you're paying for search, what are they searching for?
Exactly. So obviously it's in German, so I don't know the German.
Sure.
We type into words like green roof, or conscious roof, or living roof, or commercial building, suds.
Yeah.
They get into the very technical elements of the architectural side.
Okay.
So for the average person, it's boring.
Yeah.
They don't have a clue. It just gets kind of lost.
So that's good from a search perspective because they're not searching. So because your customer, who is your target customer?
It's a range actually.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge for us.
Yeah.
We're not directly talking to one person or one company.
Right.
We're talking to architects. We're talking to even government agencies that help to stimulate the industry.
Sure.
We're also talking to installers and other manufacturers, and ultimately the end consumer, the building owner, or the people who will be living in that building that the developer has created.
Yeah. So what outside of paid? So you're running some paid search, which I think is an interesting perspective if, say, we don't know how people are searching. What are you doing from because I know my mind has immediately gone to content marketing with this. Yeah. Because if there is, for brands and businesses and products or services where there is either a misconception or a lack of understanding, if you're bringing a new product to market and you don't know how people are searching and so on, immediately I'm thinking, well, what are you doing with content marketing? So what does that look like?
So our content marketing is typically promoting projects that we've done, right, and they look outstanding. So when you're looking at it, wow, that looks great,
right?
But that doesn't really show the complexity of what's involved. You just see a pretty picture, right? There's a lot of greens, and everyone's like looking at it. It might stop people from, if they're scrolling, it might stop them for a second.
Yeah, but they're not finding that.
They're just like, they move on.
I think an interesting question that I have for you then is, we talked about how it's a niche, but it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
What do you think you need to do to make that change?
Well, that's a good question, and I love that question because I'm all about disruption, right? Like, how do you really get someone to wake up, right?
Sure.
And it comes from a consumer demand, right? And so people start demanding more biodiversity.
Sure.
They want more protection regarding future flooding issues. That demand will help drive the overall industry. However, those people, they're not even aware. There's a lack of awareness because it's so niche, right? That's where it needs to be expanded out, the widespread adoption, and appealing to people to make them understand.
Sure.
So one way of doing that is you create I guess a little bit more dramatic examples where it's like you've got the urban, heat island effect. Do you know what that is?
No.
See, that's a problem, right? Do you know what it is?
No.
That's a problem, right? And that's basically cities are getting hotter because there's so much concrete. There's no absorption from
Okay,
the
fine.
greenness,
Okay,
Sure,
from
sure.
grass,
Sure.
you know. And so what it creates is that in the evening time, the heat just rises up. So you'll find that cities are a lot hotter than in the countryside.
Yeah, it's true.
It makes sense.
But you don't know that.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you don't know that, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
So that's the issue. Is like why do we even care? You know, why would the person care about this?
Sure.
Like the average person, why would they care?
Yeah.
That's part of the problem.
So, but hold on. I want to keep this really simple. So, when we're talking about content marketing, what from your brand's perspective, because what are you doing to replace yourself as the authority in this space? What does that look like?
You could say like I guess legacy projects that have been built for 10, 20 years,
Right.
and they're still existing today. And
But that's not going to feed into how people are going to find you and place you as an authority. That's good once they're there. So this is an attraction piece, right? How are you pulling people towards you? Because once they're there, you're going to use them as essentially case studies to say, look, we've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Great. But that's not going to help you in terms of increased brand awareness and help you to overcome the lack of understanding maybe of the product or the service. So what are you doing on your website to become an actual authority?
Before we go any further, if you're enjoying today's T Talk, you'll love our Grow with Evergreen podcast. Specifically created for home, garden, and lifestyle brands, it's a podcast dedicated to discussing paid media and marketing. Every episode, we're joined by a brand that wants to grow online. We delve into their business, dissect what they're doing, and define a digital growth strategy they can take and deploy into their business. And best of all, you get to listen or watch along, then take those learnings into your own business. Make sure you check it out on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. But for now, let's get back to today's T Talk.
That's a good question, right? Because it's the question is really, who are you communicating to?
Yeah.
And that's where it's a little bit lost.
Yeah, because for me, and again, you know, I don't know anything like enough about the sector, but for me, in simple terms, where I've immediately gone to from what you've said is, I think paid search is, I would be using paid search as a keyword research exercise. I don't know if that's what you are doing. That's what I would be using search for. Is I would be paying for search to understand how people are searching and the questions they're asking. So I would be going after broad match. I would be going after, I want to understand when we come up in the search results, how are people finding us? What are they searching for? I would then be using that content, that data, alongside your Google Search Console data. You know what the Google Search Console is? So that for organic data, and building up a picture of basically how people search in all the different ways. As I say, before we started recording, you said you do green roofs. I said, what do you mean living roofs? You know, so it's understanding how people search, the phrasing they use, and the questions they have. And then I would be using that to, on the website, create an information hub around providing the best possible content, the best on the web content, to answer any and all questions around this as a topic. So building topical authority, and you're not going to do that with case studies. Case studies are going to reinforce your authority, but to build your authority, you're going to have to go after good old-fashioned Q&A. So what are the questions people are asking? Have you done any of this yet?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you done? Okay.
Our website's come a long way. In fact,
have you got like FAQs on there and all of that?
We do. We have a lot of like those because of those very reasons.
Yeah.
But we've got too much information on our website, you know, and people can get drowned in information.
Fine. Okay.
And it gets lost. Like,
Fine.
It's gone. It covers a lot of those basic questions, but ultimately, depending on the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
So if you're talking to an architect,
Yeah.
they can dive into the details.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
understand the technical elements. But if you're just appealing to a general homeowner who's about to put a green roof on their house, which is fine. Well, they're not really necessarily interested in that. They're wanting to understand what are the benefits.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so
but have you done that? Have you done that exercise to almost bucket the people and go, the architects are going to want, because we work with a client that does exactly that, where we grouped the content and we said the homeowner, not green roofs, but something not a million miles away, but it was like we grouped them and we said the homeowners are going to have this set of questions, and we did a research and we sort of grouped them, and then we said the architects are going to have these type of questions and want to know this information, and then we had in this case it was builders and contractors, and we said installers. So installers and builders, and so there were three very clear customers, very, very clear audiences. And so we did an exercise with the client where we grouped the content, and so we created essentially 3 information hubs that all had strong calls to action, that were all very visually easily identifiable, that you knew if you were in, and they were even different color palettes. So it was very obvious, I am a homeowner, I can self-select, this is where I need to be. And I am an architect, this is where I need to be. And that becomes, from a pure SEO, organic perspective, you can have that from a hierarchical perspective on the website to be very clear. This is our hub for homeowners, this is our hub for architects, this is our hub for... Have you got anything like that?
No.
Maybe worth thinking about?
Absolutely.
Because I think
it's too much. Like,
yeah, because otherwise, actually, you can go, if you've been creating content for a long time, you can end up having so much,
yes,
and then as you say, you get lost, and that's not good for the user experience. So forget Google, it's just what's best for the user, and I think that might be something to do, because that would also, and the other thing you could do, and again, I don't know if you're doing this, but from a Google Ads perspective, you could run dynamic search ads to target those hubs, which again is basically a way of saying we're not going to give you serve Google keywords, but we're going to serve Google pages to say, and you could inherit it from a parent down. So if you had the right hierarchy on your website, keep it really simple. Let's say we had the Diadem, .com/homeowners as one section of the site, and then we had you could say to Google dynamically, anything from there down, inherit to show. So you're serving homeowners with the relevant content, then you're serving architects with their relevant content. That could be a way of structuring the website to avoid it just being overwhelmed. That might be something to think about.
That's good. I really like it.
Yeah? I think that would also feed into your ability to clean, that would make Google better, and then this is where it would self-stimulate, because if you did that, particularly if you had dynamic, this is definitely something you should look into. If you had dynamic running and you had it sectioned, you would get so much search term data, which would be absolute gold, which you could feed back in to content creation, content consolidation, and then other content that you could cull, and it could then self-serve from a paid perspective, and it would also give you ideas of what you could do organically to keep feeding and building out this hub, so you cover everything from a homeowner perspective they could ever want to know. And then you could cross-pollinate and so on. That could be quite cool.
I quite like that. Yeah.
Yeah? Well, there you go. It was worth you coming on for 10 minutes, wasn't it?
The techie one.
But it's worth. So from a creative standpoint, then, if we were to go on the website right now, like how, because that's the other thing. Often
that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, it's when you create a lot of content. Are you doing a good job with creative?
Like? Yeah.
Visually, it's actually really nice.
Is it? Yeah.
Well, it's quite a visual thing.
It is.
Yeah.
It is a visual thing, and the first thing you see is a green roof.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
You see it's a beautiful palette of colors.
Yeah.
Obviously green, as you can see here.
Yeah,
even,
yeah.
That obviously appeals to the ideal
Sure.
market.
Yeah.
But I think what you're saying is, you touched on a good point, is because if I was a homeowner or an architect, like, it's just too much to see, and so you got to know what you're looking for in order to find it. And yes, it's all done really well. The agency who did it did a good job, but at the same time, it's like it hasn't broken it down into those subcategories.
Yeah.
And I think that's because the website serves a purpose of promotion. It also serves a purpose of technical information.
Sure.
So people demand that information.
But only not all of your buckets of audience are going to want the tech specs.
No.
So exactly that, and you can then isolate and say, well, the tech spec, it's only really the architects that are going to want the tech specs, and maybe builders are going to want the 10% that they're interested in.
Yeah.
And by sectioning up, I think there's, I would start, and it's something to speak to your devs about, I would start from a website sitemap perspective and look at the hierarchy. In the same way as if you were writing a book, you'd plan out the chapters and what that's going to look like, the structure of the book. You almost need to think of it the same way of the website. Is right, we've got, if it is the case that we've got this huge amount of data, and it's actually, are we leveraging paid and organic channels to feed and give us ideas of things we have covered, haven't covered, what's working, what's not? But beyond that, look at it and structure it and go, right, from the top down, this is what we want. And then you can then start thinking, well, that piece of content, that's going to be most relevant to the homeowners. And if it's going to be relevant to the homeowners and the builders, well, then great. You can either have it in two places, or you can link to it and have it. So, but I think working out the structure of where everything's going to sit, it will also enable you to basically do a gap analysis to work out, and it will enable you to put the right content in the right places. And that's going to be so much really good for the user, and it's going to be much cleaner for Google to understand that you've got very clear parts of the website. This is for you, this is for you.
Yeah.
And I think that would be, a really simple but really effective way of maybe approaching it. But I need to go and actually have a look at the website, what you're doing. But I think that could be really, that's giving you food for thought.
I can see that breaking down, but here's the thing. So when it comes to content, like organic, right?
Yeah.
Organic posting.
Sure.
What's something that you would recommend when it's quite a broad-based, right? Like if you're focusing on LinkedIn, then obviously it's a little bit more B2B. Facebook, Meta, Facebook, Instagram. It's kind of about the pretty pictures, right? Which, it's great, but it doesn't actually doesn't do anything. Get a couple of likes.
You've asked the wrong question. So what you've done is what everyone does, is you start with the media. You don't start with the media. This is where everyone gets it wrong, right? So what you should be asking yourself is, who is our target market? For you, let's say we've got 3 core types of target market. We've got our homeowners, we've got our architects, we've got our builders. Let's say we're going to go with those 3, right? That's where you think. So we should be thinking, right, who is our market, and clearly identifying who exactly they are. Then, and only then, do we think about what is the message we're trying to get in front of those people. Now again, if we think about good old marketing principles, are we going after the pain point? Are we going after, with the architect, the key information they're going to want, et cetera, et cetera. So the message is going to be very different for those 3 types of audience. And there might be multiple messages that are going to run in sequence for those audiences. So identify the audience, or the market, then identify the message you want to get to them, and those 2 will dictate which is the right media to go on. But what everyone always does is they start with the media. Is they go, let's think about LinkedIn, let's think about Instagram, let's go to YouTube, and then work backwards. And that's why you get it wrong, because you're then trying to put a square peg in a round hole and backfill. And we all do it because media is so accessible. It's so easy to create a LinkedIn post or a TikTok or this, that, and the other. And then actually we go, right, we want to post something. If the conversation ever starts of, let's post something on YouTube, or I want to create something for LinkedIn, you've already got it wrong. It should be, right, let's think about our market, let's get that audience really clear in our mind, exactly who they are, and then let's spend some time thinking about their pain point, their challenge, the opportunity, and the key message or messages we want to get in front of them. And only once we've done that, then do we think, okay, what's the right media? Where do we feel this audience, with this pain point, we need to get in front of them? And then we go, actually, LinkedIn is going to be good. Or actually, no, LinkedIn is not going to be good. Actually, this is going to be better via a Meta or a YouTube or it's a Google or whatever. So I think starting that way round will make it a lot easier to be able to isolate and sort of silo your different audiences.
Yeah, because I think that's the challenge, right? It's because we're not just appealing to one audience. And previous roles I've done, it's been a lot more, this is our target market, and we know that persona so well. But when you're dealing across multiple,
that's why you've got to start with the market. That's because that is the bit that is fragmented. It's different. You've got different audiences with complete. A homeowner is going to ask, be thinking, search, and behave in a completely different way to an architect. Both of them might ultimately go on to buy the product. Great. But to get them to that point where they're going to make a decision, or they're going to inquire, or they're going to become a lead, is going to require 2 fundamentally different, or 3 or 4, however many different marketing segments you have, fundamentally different strategies. So I think from a technical perspective, how you structure the website and the navigation, the sitemap, is going to make that a lot easier and simpler for each of those groups in isolation. And then it's how you communicate those messages, those very different messages to those audience, will become a lot easier, and will answer which is the right platform by starting with each of those and then thinking, right, who's the market, who's the message, and then working out the best media for them. That's how I'd be approaching this one.
I love it.
Yeah? Has it been useful coming on?
Absolutely.
Good. Well, there you go. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. That is hopefully a brand. If you haven't ever, if you're commercial and you're considering a green roof or a living roof, as I thought of it, then check these guys out. Do you want to give it? What's the website? Where can you find out more?
Diadem.com. My name is Ian Hamilton Gates, and you can just contact me or find me on LinkedIn, or come find them on this show here.
There you go. There you go. Thanks so much, Ian. Appreciate it. All the best.
Thank you.